What's up, everybody? This is Maltag here, and today I'm going to be giving you my 2024 to 2025 NFL predictions. First, I'm going to go division by division, and then after that, I'm going to give you my playoff predictions. I'm also going to give you my analysis on each team when I go over them, and we're going to start with the AFC North here, and go down the AFC, and then go to the NFC. I'm also going to start from bottom to top, so let's start with the Browns. I still do not like this Deshaun Watson situation. I think he will never get back in form to what he was. I think him taking a break from the NFL for the reasons that you guys already know. He just won't be the same, and his struggles are gonna continue the season. I think he will also get hurt, or maybe make up an excuse not to play. I don't know. But I think the Browns thrive on defense. Their defense is amazing. One of the best defenses in the league, I think. So I think that they will actually be a pretty good team early on, but I think they're going to fall off. I think Watson also isn't necessarily going to be a strong suit, nor is this offense. We don't know how good Nick Chubb is going to be off that gruesome injury he had. So yeah, I think 8-9 for the Browns. They miss the playoffs. I think if they do get a pretty good quarterback, I do think this team is a playoff team 100%, and we saw that last year with Joe Flacco. So now we're gonna go to the Steelers. Earlier in the offseason, I had higher hopes for Russ and Justin Fields, but after seeing the preseason, I know the preseason doesn't matter that much. But, after seeing the preseason, I'm just not sure how good the Steelers are going to do. I still think they are going to go 500, so I don't think that Mike Tomlin is going to break his record, and, because he's had so many seasons above 500, and I don't think that will go away. But I do see this offense struggling, even with two new quarterbacks similar to the Browns. I think the offense is going to struggle, and the defense is still pretty good. And I think their offense will show flashes throughout the season, but I don't think that they'll be good enough to make the playoffs, especially in this very tough division. Probably the best division in football, to be honest. Now let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this team is gonna go back to being a pretty good playoff team, like they were 2 years ago, and 3 years ago before that they made the Super Bowl. And I think they will go back into form, especially at the beginning of the season, because these past two seasons they've had a rough beginning of the season. I think that they will actually be pretty good at the beginning of this season, because the Bengals, they always have some very weird losses throughout the season to teams they shouldn't lose to. I'm sure that's every single NFL team, but I think the Bengals are going to have a lot of that actually, where they kind of kick themselves in the foot. I feel like this team has regressed from that Super Bowl run. T. Higgins isn't as good as he was then. They lost Jesse Bates, a really good safety. No more Tyler Boyd, so we don't know how their wide receiver room is, besides Jamar and T. Higgins. So yeah, we'll see how they are. Of course, their offensive line is improved, and parts of their defense are also better. But I see them going 11-6. They're going to snag that 5 seed. And they are going to be a playoff team again after last year. And Joe Burrow, I think, is going to stay healthy and have a pretty good season. Okay, now let's talk about the Ravens here. The Ravens, I think, is going to be, again, a really good team again. Just like last year, they're going to claim the number 1 seed, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. I do think that Derrick Henry is going to regress a little bit, but I still think he's going to be a crucial part of this team. And I also the hip drop tackle being banned is going to help him as well. And that Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry read option or power option duo is going to be absolutely nasty. And their defense is really, really good. With Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, and Justin Madubuike, this defense is just getting better and better. Especially with rookie Nate Wiggins. I think he's actually going to make a jump, and I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the season if he's considered the same level, or if not even better, as Marlon Humphrey, because I really like what I've seen from him. I think he's going to be an elite corner. So yeah, they will continue their dominance in the AFC this year. But we are done with the AFC North. Okay, let's go to the AFC South. Starting here with the Titans, I think this team is actually pretty slept on. Some people think they're going to go like 3-14, and at first I thought that they were going to go in this like big rebuild, like not re-signing Henry, and then like trading Bayard to the Eagles, who's now a Bear, but then they traded for Darius Sneed from the Chiefs, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. And then, they got Pollard, they got some good options for Will Levis. So I think this team will show flashes. They won't be good enough to get over 500 or make the playoffs, but they will be a pretty solid team. They will exceed expectations. So yeah, Titans, not a bad team. I do think they will struggle inside of the division, as you see with the division record. Now let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think, at some point at the end of last season, I was thinking, and I actually had the Jaguars winning the division, but I don't know, I rethought things. I still think that T.Y. is really good. I think he's underrated now because of how much hate he's getting after last season. I still think he can be a very good quarterback. People don't remember how good they were at the beginning of last season. But ultimately, I think that they will struggle on the defensive side of the ball, and also I think that they will continue making silly mistakes in games that will make them lose games. I think they will lose a lot of one-score games. They'll be okay in the division, but I don't see them making the playoffs. So yeah, that's with the Jaguars. Now the Indianapolis Colts. Now this team, as you see, they're gonna barely miss the playoffs at 9-7-1, which their tie is actually against the Steelers, by the way. I think that this team is actually going to make, because we saw how good they were with Minshew. They actually almost made the playoffs. Now with Richardson back, I know he didn't have a good game in preseason, but I still believe in him. He has one hell of an arm. He can run the ball. He needs to learn how to slide, but I think Jonathan Taylor, some people I think are overrating him and forgetting that he had not so good of a season last year. I think he's going to be okay this year. I think he's going to be better than last year. I think he's going to go over 1,000 yards. And I think that the Colts are going to be really good offensively. Defensively, their secondary is not the best. They have one of the worst secondaries in the league right now, actually, to be honest. But I still do think that they will barely miss the playoffs and have a pretty good season. Now let's go to the Houston Texans, who I think will go 12-5. This team, they got Stephon Diggs, who will actually, I think, will be their wide receiver 3, actually. I don't think he's actually going to be that good, man. I think that this is the season where we're going to be okay, man, Diggs isn't a top receiver anymore, But, man, this Texans team, they also got, players like Danielle Hunter, So, I think that they will have a bit of a step up from last season. They will dominate the division. I think I had their only division loss to the Colts or the Jaguars, I forget. But, yeah, and they're going to claim that number 2 seed. Now we are on the AFC East, starting with the Patriots, who are now in full rebuild mode after having the greatest dynasty in NFL history. They are finally hitting that reset button, which I guess they did last year, but there was still hope last year because the year before that they made the playoffs and they lost the Bills. They went 10-7. So this year, Drake May, I'm not sure so much about him. We'll see how he does. We'll see how he develops. But this Patriots team, I don't think is gonna be able to compete at all. So yeah. Now let's go to the Bills. Some people still think that this Bills team is a very high playoff team. I don't think so. They lost a lot of defensive players. They lost Stephon Diggs. They lost Gabe Davis. So I think this offense will struggle. Josh Allen will do his best, but he'll make a lot of mistakes doing so, not having the weapons he needs. And I think they will miss the playoffs going 8-9. And I think that their coach potentially gets fired. So now let's go to the Dolphins, who I think will go 10-7. I think that they will have a lot of like ups and downs similar to last year, because we saw at the end of last year that they really started to fall off a cliff. I think they won't be quite as dominant like as last year, but they'll still be like a pretty solid team. I still think that Tua is good. Waddle didn't have the best season last year. I'm not sure how he'll do. I think Tyreek Hill isn't going to be as good as he was last year, but I still trust this team to make the playoffs, and they will claim the number 6 seed. And now, first place is going to be the New York Jets. This team got defense. This team got offense. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be healthy this year. He's going to be a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be elite, but I think he's going to be pretty good. He's going to win Comeback Player of the Year, most likely, either him or Nick Chubb. With their offense thriving and their defense being their defense, I think they will top this division. So yeah, that's what I think about the Jets, and they will claim that number 3 seed, which means that the Chiefs are the number 4 seed. But that's just how the tiebreakers worked when I did this. So I will talk about the Chiefs though shortly. First, we start off with the Broncos, similar to the Patriots. They are now in full rebuild mode. They tried for a while to be contenders with Russell Wilson. It didn't really work out. They have Bo Nix now, Zach Wilson. So I think this is just going to be another rebuild year, or I guess their first rebuild year, which probably should have happened a bit sooner, to be honest. But it is what it is. Now let's go to the Raiders with Gardner Minshew. This is like a solid team. I don't think that they'll make like any noise. I think the Gardner Minshew is gonna kind of prove that he's like the Ryan Fitzpatrick of this generation. So kind of like a pretty good backup, but not really for that starting role. I see Devontae Adams requesting a trade at the end of the season, but overall their season isn't going to be terrible. I don't think that they're going to be as bad as I thought they were last year. My original prediction for the Raiders last year was actually pretty bad, and they ended up having a decent season. But this year, I just don't see them putting the pieces together. I still think they need a quarterback. Now, let's go to the Los Angeles Chargers. I know that they lost a lot in the offseason, but I think that Jim Harbaugh is one of the best football coaches in the world. I believe in Justin Herbert. I think that one of these young receivers he has are gonna develop this year. They got a lot of Ravens players. I call them the Los Angeles Ravens because of how many Ravens players they picked up because of the Harbaugh brotherhood or brothership, or how just being brothers. I'm not sure what I'm really saying, but but yeah. And yeah, defense also isn't that bad. Joey Bosa I think regressed a bit, but I really do still like Joey Bosa and Mac as a partnership. I think that they will be pretty good this year actually, and I think that the Chargers will be coached well. On paper, if it was coached by a different team, I don't see them making the playoffs, but I think they'll be coached well. I trust Justin Herbert to get the job done. So yeah. Now the Chiefs. The Chiefs. I don't think they should have traded Ladarius Sneed. I'm gonna be honest with you, because they had a really good cornerback duo in Trent McDuffie and Ladarius Sneed. They traded him. I know that he was on a franchise tag, but I still think he would have played on it, to be honest. So, and then on offense, they did add Marquise Brown, but he will be out for a bit. And this Chiefs team also has a pretty hard schedule, so I think it'll be pretty similar to last year, where they don't do the best in the regular season. I think their defense also regresses a bit because they were so dominant last year. But yeah, I think that they will regress this year. But the Chiefs being the Chiefs, come playoff time, they might be amazing. Who knows? And I'll see shortly what I think about them in the playoffs. But yeah, we are done with the AFC. So yeah, going over it, the Ravens have the 1 seed, the Texans have the 2 seed, the Jets have the 3 seed, Chiefs have the 4 seed, the Bengals have the 5 seed, the Dolphins have the 6 seed, and the Chargers have the 7 seed. So 2 teams, or actually no, not 2 teams. But yeah, basically two teams make it to the playoffs in every single division except for the AFC South. So now we're going to be going to the NFC, starting with the NFC West. Let's start with the Cardinals. I think that this team is pretty underrated. Some people have them going like 3-14. I think that they'll show some signs. I think that Kyler Murray is going to go back into his 2021 form and be like a pretty good quarterback, not elite, but because he has shown a bit of regression recently. So, but I think he'll be back on track for this season. Marvin Harrison, of course. James Conner, I think that their defense isn't going to be the best, and that's going to hold them back. I do think that this offense is going to get back on track, and I think Kyler Murray is going to get back on track. Now we got the Seahawks. I think that they're going to regress a bit from last season. I think that this is when Geno Smith is going to fall off a cliff. He's been a pretty good man, and I'm so happy for him for becoming relevant again and being a starter, but I just think that this is where his age, because he's 35 now. I think his age is going to start to show. I think that eventually, by the end of the season, he might even get benched. But this team is still pretty talented, so I wouldn't be surprised if they made a playoff run. So yeah, that's enough with the Seahawks. Let's go to the Rams, who could potentially be a playoff team. I don't quite see it this year. I see them losing some close games. And I do see them struggling a bit at certain points. I do think that Matthew Stafford was pretty good last year, but he was not so good the year before that. I think he falls off a little bit, but he's still going to be pretty good. We still got Puka, we got Cooper Kupp. This team can definitely make the playoffs. I just don't see it this season. But if they would make the playoffs, make a deep run. So now let's go to the 49ers. Who I think are going to be, again, the number one seed in the NFC. I didn't see their schedule to be all that hard. They play the Cowboys again, who they own. And yeah, man, very similar to last year. They will have success on offense and defense. They just have too much superstars on this team not to be the one seed. That's all I got with them. Now let's go to the NFC North. Yes, the NFC North. Let's start with the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy out for the season. They also lost a player like Danielle Hunter. I just don't trust Sam Darnold. I think Justin Jefferson will have a great season again. Don't trust Sam Darnold. So yeah, this team just won't be very good. Maybe next year with J.J. McCarthy and some free agency and some good draft picks next year. But for now, I don't think that there'll be anything special. Now to the Chicago Bears, and I do think that Caleb Williams, the rookie, will lead them to the playoffs at a 9-8 record. I think that he is legit. I think his ceiling, he's very similar to Patrick Mahomes, I feel like. So that could be his ceiling. I think he's going to be good. He has amazing weapons. Keenan Allen, who actually has looked fat in the preseason, but we'll see how he does. I still think he'll be pretty good. I don't think he'll be the best receiver on the team. I think that DJ Moore will. And then, of course, Rome Odunze. Or like a Dunze, I forget how to say his name. But yeah, good offense. Defense is solid, too. I think that a lot of their losses, will be off of rookie experience. He's going to be a bit shaky here and there, but I do overall think that he will get them into the playoffs. Now we got the Packers, who some people think that they're going to win the division or go over 11, 12 wins, somewhere around there. I don't think so. I still think that they are going to be kind of like an up and down team. I do think that Jordan Love is a good player, and I drafted him in my fantasy league. Hopefully he does good. I do trust Jordan Love. His weapons may not be the best, but they are starting to develop, and I still think that this Packers team is good enough to be a playoff team. Now let's go to the Lions. I really like, they really have a really good system. Look with Jared Goff, because I'm going to be honest, I think Jared Goff is more of like a system quarterback than Brock Purdy. I also think that Brock Purdy isn't really like a top quarterback, but I think the Lions really built like a really good system around Jared Goff, and it really works with him. I don't think that he'd be like an amazing quarterback in other situations. Doesn't mean he's bad, because he's really great like with this scheme. I think the Lions are going to be like a very good team again. Man, you should check out really how good that offensive line is, because this might be like one of the best offensive lines in like NFL history. They have such a good offensive line. Gibbs, he's only getting better. I think their defense is also gonna get like a bit better. I know that they struggled last year, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the Lions and the NFC North. Now let's go to the NFC East, which let's start off with the Giants. I don't trust Daniel Jones. I think he'll get benched for Tommy DeVito, and then eventually Drew Lock is going to get that position. And I think that Drew Lock is actually going to show some promise. I'm actually like a Drew Lock believer. I still think that he can be like a pretty decent quarterback in the league. But, they made some moves for Brian Burns. I think that their defense will be all right. Mainly like their pass rush and their run stopping ability. But overall, man, they're just not the same team they were 2 years ago, like when they made that playoff run. So yeah, 5-12, missing the playoffs, onto the Commanders. And this team is pretty young, they brought in a lot of veterans, though, but the team will be all right, I think that a lot of their new players won't fit well, like Austin Eckler. I don't think will be the best. Bobby Wagner, he'll make his tackles, but I think he's not going to be the best either, So I don't see this team getting anywhere near the playoffs, but they won't be awful. 6-11 isn't a terrible record. Now we got the Eagles. The Eagles, I do have some concern with after seeing them at the end of last season. I know that Jalen Hurts was hurt, but still they were awful. But like adding Saquon Barkley, the O-line isn't as good as his last year, mainly because of Jason Kelce leaving. But I still think that this team is good. I think that they will struggle more defensively than offensively. The Eagles will go like 11-6. And they will make the playoffs. Now let's go to the Dallas Cowboys, who I think will like win the division, which I've actually seen, and most people think the Eagles are. I think the Cowboys are still gonna like win the division. I still think that they're gonna go 12-5 for like a fourth straight season. CeeDee Lamb, like I think Dak Prescott has become pretty like underrated at this point, because like the amount of hate he gets is just insane, man. Because he's actually like a pretty good quarterback on paper, and I know he struggles at certain points, but still. But yeah, I believe in this team. A defense, they got some playmakers. Like a Bland, like a Trayvon Diggs, like a Parsons. So yeah, I still have them winning this division just like last year. Let's go to the NFC South, the NFC South. So let's go ahead to the NFC South here. So with the Panthers, I think they will continue to struggle. Also the rebuilding. I do think that Bryce Young still does have superstar potential. I think he'll also show it. I think he'll be better than he is last year. But the Panthers aren't good, and I don't think that they will do much of anything this year. Now let's go to the Saints, who I think will regress a bit this year. They brought in Chase Young, but this is kind of like my team, where like on paper they're super good, but I think in games they will just kind of flop. They'll win some games, but they'll lose the important ones, and ultimately they will miss the playoffs. I don't trust Derek Carr, and yeah. Now let's go to the Buccaneers. I barely have them missing the playoffs. And they were just so like inconsistent last year, and like I know they made like a little bit like of a playoff run, but I don't know. I see them being like inconsistent as well, and especially at the wrong times, and I think that they will go under 500 and miss the playoffs. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons, who have gotten really good the past a couple of weeks, even like with Justin Simmons and getting Matthew Judon. Man, that defense is looking spicy, and then that offense with Kirk Cousins, I think that Kyle Pitts will break out. My main concern, like his chemistry, and also like Kirk Cousins getting older too. So he might just be bad. Who knows? He might just be bad this season. I don't think he will. I think he'll be like a pretty decent quarterback this year. But yeah, because I could have them like 12-5 or 13-4, because like talent-wise they are, but I think that like chemistry will have them losing some games and possibly coaching. But yeah, those are my official predictions for standings. Now I'm going to be going over the playoffs, and this is how the wild card round will look based off of the predictions I've made on the regular season. I'm going to be jumping between the AFC and the NFC. I'm going to start with the Chargers versus the Texans. I think that the Texans roster is a bit too good for the Chargers. I think that this is where the Chargers season ends. I think CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert are at like a similar level of skill. But, and I think that this game also might get a bit out of hand. I think that it's going to be like a great first season for Jim Harbaugh, but they just need more, Okay, now in the NFC, Bears versus Lions, a NFC North matchup that I think the Lions will win. They just have too much talent. They're too good. Coaching is too good. I don't know. The scheme this team has too good, and they're going to beat the rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Now we got another AFC matchup in the Dolphins against the Jets. I think that the Jets defense are going to show that they are elite, and I do think that they are going to beat the Dolphins offense. And I think the Dolphins offense is going to struggle in a similar way that they did against the Chiefs. It's going to be cold, like in New Jersey, like in MetLife Stadium, and I think that the Jets are just going to overall get it done against their division rival. Now we got the Packers versus the Cowboys. I'm going to make this short. I don't trust the Cowboys in the playoffs anymore. I'm still mad that I picked them to beat the Packers last year. Give me the Packers. Oh, oops. Yeah, man. Just give me the Packers. I'm not dealing with that again, man. They're just not. They're not trusted in early rounds of the playoffs. Oof. And now this is like a really good matchup. We got the Bengals and the Chiefs. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Who is Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite in the playoffs? It is Joe Burrow. I know he beat him 1 year in the playoffs, but I think the refs were honestly on his side. But yeah, I do think that Joe Burrow, like in the Bengals, will beat the Chiefs this year. And yeah, not really much that I think it's going to be another like close game, probably as well by a field goal. But yeah, that's what I think about that. Now let's go to the final game of the wild card round. Eagles against the Falcons. Both of these teams look really good. I'm going to edge the Eagles though, because I think that their team is overall a better chemistry. Again, that's the one thing I'm worried about the Falcons. But I mean, like it is like in Atlanta, and I do think that the game will be close. But I do have the Eagles from recent playoff experience, and the Falcons don't have the best chemistry. So yeah, that will wrap up the wild card round. Let's go to the divisional round. Okay, here is the divisional round. I'm going to start with the AFC again, starting with the Bengals versus the Ravens. I think that this Ravens team is too dominant. It's too good. I see the Ravens beating Joe Burrow in the Bengals in that one. Now let's go to the NFC. Packers versus the 49ers, a rematch of the divisional round last year, and this time I think it ends differently. I think the Packers finally get a win versus the 49ers in the playoffs. They've lost to them so much recently, but finally get it done. Now we got the Jets versus the Texans. Now, this is where things get interesting. I have the Jets making the AFC Championship. I think that they will be very improved this year from last year. I think that CJ Stroud will have a pretty good game against the Jets, but I do think that their defense will hold up and force field goals when they need to, and overall outscore the Jets. Now we got the Eagles versus the Lions. I see the Eagles make possibly having an upset here, but I'm going to pick the Lions here. I think that they are a better built team, so give me the Lions. Now we got the championship round, starting with the Jets and the Ravens. I think that this is finally the Ravens' year. Last year, everyone thought that. This year, I think it's actually going to be the Ravens' year. I think that they are going to beat the Jets and will make the Super Bowl once again. And now we got a NFC North battle between the Packers and the Lions. And I do think that the Lions will get it out. They will get out that win. I think that it will look scary for some points. I don't know. I have a feeling that the Packers, they could win this game, but I think the Lions are a bit too good, to be honest. Now we got Super Bowl 58 or 59, to be honest. I'm starting to lose track. I think it's 59 now. But, so yeah, Super Bowl 59 between the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. And I got the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl. And this is the draft order. So it looks like the Panthers will get the number 1 pick. Hopefully they don't trade it. And then, yes, this is the bracket. Although you can't really see it fully. There is the bracket. Alright guys, thank you guys for watching. And I will be giving you my playoff predictions when that time comes. So, peace.